and welcome to the Pawsit podcast. I am Dr. Sam, and with me, as always, is Dr. Robert. How are you, Dr. Robert?
Good. How's everybody doing today?
And you can see we have a guest. Yay, it's our favorite thing on Pawsit to have a guest. So we're so excited and just honored to have with us Thomas Barrett of Barrett O2 Muzzles today. I am super excited to get a chance to talk to you and kind of share your story with our listeners and share the amazing work you're doing. And I can't wait for everyone to hear about what you've done. We met Thomas because he was our neighbor at one of the last conferences that we went to, and you were just so nice and so welcoming, and let us know what you were up to. And we saw lots of people come into your booth the entire time, so we know that you're making waves and people are really interested in what you're doing. So if you don't mind kind of giving us a little bit of your backstory and what brought you to us into the vet world and all that fun stuff.
Sure. I will have to tell you that my dogs broke in, so I
That's
hope that they're
okay.
quiet.
We love dogs here, so it doesn't matter.
You're in good
Me
company.
too. All right. Well, a little bit about how we got started. Well, first of all, what we do is I invented a new style of oxygen mask, and it's kind of a cross between a oxygen muzzle and an oxygen mask. There's a lot of degree of safety involved when you're dealing with wounded dogs, especially the working canines, and that's kind of where we began the journey, and we ended up here to actually working with and getting a lot of support from some of the vets from the hospital side.
Hmm.
So it's actually kind of transformed and just kind of gone over into both sides of where I wanted it to, but it wasn't originally here to be that way at the beginning. But it's very exciting.
Yeah. Well, your background is doing work with the working dogs. Is that right?
Yes, I was in the military. I was a combat lifesaver. It's where I really got my first touch of medicine. And when I came out, I became a paramedic. I had the option to go to a tactical medic class, which I went with my partner. And at that class, I was introduced to some, dog medicine for the working handler, which I've never seen before. And this has been many years ago. So a lot of the things that we taught back then has evolved. So it's kind of like ancient history, that, but just seeing the transition from where we were to where we are, it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing what's happening now.
Can I
So
ask just real quick, is that the first time that you had experience, like, so you said that you were doing stuff in the human side of things. So
yes.
was that the very first time that you kind of did like a toe dip into the veterinary world?
Yes, at the class, we were introduced. It was a portion of the class was actually some folks came in to teach some resuscitation tactics for dogs when they got wounded in the field,
Oh, wow.
and it was very new at the time. So, like I said, the evolution of all this is just it's amazing that the
Hmm.
things that's gone on in the last 15 years.
Well, and I think
So
people's awareness of how much we use dogs in these situations, life or death situations, and what a big part of the team they are and how important they are as like, they're loved by their handlers. They're really, I mean, these are amazing animals that do so much. And I don't really think people realize that. I wonder if maybe 9/11 was like the first time people realized how much dogs did. I don't know. I'm just guessing that that might be one of the first times people started to really recognize
sure.
dogs. Do you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Oh, yes. And recently, when 9/11 came around again, you always see the old footages, and they've been doing a lot of profiling. I think on one of the last dogs that actually was in there had died of old age.
Mm.
But they started to get some recognition more for what they've done, just like
Mhm.
all the dogs out there. On
Mhm.
any given day, there's approximately there could be around 5,000 working dogs just here in the United States, and that's just
Wow.
a rough number.
Mhm.
People see them more now in the airports and all over the place. So I
Yeah.
think things are really starting to build. But like you said, they have a lot of uses, and being a support dog like one of mine. I mean, she calms me down when I get a little ramped up sometimes, and you go pet
We
her,
all
and I'm
do.
good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think a lot of us are like that, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You're in a
anyway, yeah,
good audience right
continue.
now.
Yeah, exactly. All people who love their dogs.
Oh, yes.
Exactly.
But anyway, you were saying, so you took that first class and that was kind of your first toe dip into that. So where did the
Yes.
evolution go from there?
I was very interested, so I kept in contact with some of the folks that were teaching, and eventually, years later, I was asked to be an instructor, which I was actually one of the first to work with these folks as an instructor, and I worked there for right around 10 or 11 years
Oh wow.
out in the field, working with military and law enforcement, canine handlers, all over the place. We were down in Texas, working border patrol things, and just
Okay.
all over, just trying to give these folks a great base for when their dogs go down. Being able to treat them properly and effectively in a field environment. And this is where I saw myself that when we were teaching all this medicine, is that one thing was not being really addressed, and that was the oxygen side.
Uh-huh.
What we were doing there was actually using a human piece of equipment for the dog, but actually it was on the outside of the nose anyway, so it really wasn't any benefit at the time. So I took it upon myself to find something that we could give these folks to actually be beneficial to the dog and the handler, whereas the safety comes in and actually get some effective oxygen supplementation out in a field environment without these guys having to makeshift and make things out of cellophane and whatever else they could get their hands on to contain the oxygen and whatever austere environment they might be in.
Mm.
But
So is that what people were doing? They were using like what would be meant for like a human's face, but putting it
yes,
over onto a dog's face, which of course
yeah,
we
and,
don't.
and yeah, we did that, and that was something that I worked with a lot of veterinarians, and at the
Mhm.
time, this seems and it still seems to be a practice for a lot of folks I've talked to, is using this piece of equipment that's meant for humans on the dogs,
Mhm.
and this was a lot of motivation for me to find something that worked better and allow the dogs to actually feel what the treatment that they're given, instead of hoping that it's working when you're trying to make yourself safe and everybody and your dog as well. So, and I made something that's hands free, which is
Right.
paramount. That was one of my main things, is to make sure that whatever we have is that it's on the dog, and we are not, we don't need to hold it there, that we can do other tasks that may be more pertinent, than holding that. So this is where everything started. So it seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great because even from an emergency standpoint, I think you've mentioned the safety component of things as well as being able to deliver oxygen. Like there are a lot of dogs, they come in scared and they may be more likely to bite and they're having a hard time breathing. And right now, what we have is literally, it looks like a half of glass, like one of those tumbler glasses that we put
Yeah.
over their mouth. It's clear, so you can see through it, but it's just that you attach a oxygen hose to the back of it, and it literally just puts oxygen in their face. They're annoyed by it most of the time because it's like irritating. They don't like this weird object on front of their face. But muzzles a lot of the time are unique. Actually, it'll calm a lot of dogs down. Those relax once the muzzle's on because they're,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure necessarily why it is, but I think it's brilliant. They're able to combine a little bit of the muzzle part of things along with the oxygen, kind of like, again, supply the safety, supply the oxygen, because I don't think we realize like how much oxygen we really need to give these patients and how effective that can be.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think too, the population of dogs you're talking about are dogs that are trained to muzzles. So like this is not a foreign thought process to them. This is not added stress to them. This is very much, like Robert said, a comforting thing, but also a handler safety thing. And like, I feel like that was one of the major things when we first talked to you, when you mentioned the kind of hands free component of it, how important that is for you to be able to go and deal with a bleed or deal with whatever else is happening while making sure that the oxygen delivery is, it just that set it and you're good, and now you can go and deal with the rest of the life threatening issues that you're dealing with.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the top priorities, the safety and being able to go and take care of other things that are just as important once you get your patient settled. Yes.
And I think that's great even in the ER setting because right now someone just has to hold it in front
Yeah.
of the dog's mouth. So and unfortunately, that's a technician that could be helping out with placing a catheter or grabbing medication so we can give the patient to calm them down. Or if there's another patient that comes in, like veterinary teams are already very short staffed. So to be able to free up Lily an extra set of hands to be able to help out with our patients is such a huge thing. So I think I love what you're doing. I think it can be such an advantage, especially in any setting, any veterinary setting, but especially the ER setting. It's huge.
Yeah,
Well,
and
in
go
the
ahead.
field, do you even have a lot? Like, so what else do you have with you in the field? I mean, how are you even delivering the oxygen? Do you just have like tanks, or what do you guys have that you're delivering?
Well, and see, that's another problem that has probably been addressed better. But a lot of times when, at least in my experience, is when the guys are out there, nobody's carrying an oxygen tank. They're carrying other things that are more important to the mission, other things. Sometimes you might have somebody close by that will have something like a backup, but initially, like I said, in my being out there, I've never seen any unit actually doing operations that have a oxygen tank right there on them. Maybe close by, like I said, but I've never seen anything there. So I mean, but they could or could be. I just don't know.
Well, I think that'd be a risk, right? I think carrying like an oxygen tank in the field, especially if it's, I mean,
Oh
this
yeah,
is obviously am I too many watching movies, but being shot at, I feel like oxygen tank is probably not the most.
no.
You don't want that next to you when things are being shot at you. I feel like it's going to explode, and that's a bad movie all
Yeah.
over again. So, so yeah, I can see that not being a high thing around you guys.
But like in an A-bag back at a vehicle or something that's close by to get to, once you get off the accident away from the danger, to be able to do that, it's come around. So, I think that there's more, opportunities to make sure that the dog is getting the treatment they need now. Like I said, the evolution has brought up in the way that they're training, and I work with a military veterinarian who's a big proponent of what I'm doing and has helped me out. He teaches classes with my products to try to show the folks out there that we do have something that will benefit in your environment. So it is getting to that side, and it's really, really amazing. It just blows my mind that it's unbelievable. It's all I can say, that it's happening.
Well, I think sometimes when you can just identify a need and then fill that void, that is where so much innovation happens. I'm curious to know, like, how many different prototypes did you have to go through? Was it pretty quick? Like, did you kind of have that flash of genius moment, or did it really take like a few? I'm just curious because I've definitely seen people develop products, and it can really take a while, I would imagine.
Well, I can tell you, I have a drawer full down here of all the ones that we started with, and I can assure you that the first two we made, my daughter, who was 6 at the time, could have made it better in her art class. But we were making something that isn't. So we were all learning. I had it in here. I needed somebody to put it, right here so I could see it. So it took us probably 5 good years of research and development and designing before we actually got somewhere. And the last 2 years have been the icing right there, because we got the design down and we just took that and just kept shaving and adding until we had what we wanted. So and we got there. We got there.
So how many times have your own dogs had to wear them to see how they fit?
Well, I'll just tell you, when I open this bottom drawer, a couple of them don't like to be around. The other one, my lab is really good about that. She loves it because she always gets a treat afterwards.
I was going to say, you gave her food after, right? I mean, that's really the
Oh
secret
yes,
right
oh
there.
yes. That's how I get to do things, when people wave ice cream in front of me or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, labs are walking stomachs, so we all know that that's all they really need is just a little bit of food. So
Correct.
Absolutely. And you have some really good news, actually, that I think we'd love to share with everybody, because with all these iterations of what you've done, it sounds like why don't you share the good news you got today? I think
Well,
really exciting.
yes, we did get some very, very good news. We were called by, or I reached out to Cornell University Vet Research Hospital, not expecting anything back. And actually, a doctor got back with me, and we talked a few times. And today they had to write protocols for what they want to do. They were interested in helping get some data points, using the dog, I mean, the mask on the dogs, pre-oxygenation, to find out, flows and that kind of thing. And she gave me an email today stating that the protocols have been accepted. They have to go through a long
Yay.
process with all this. So
Yeah,
very excited about
universities
what's
are
coming.
always slow.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, they were very happy. They were kind of really excited to help, just talking to the doctor. She got really excited. So it made me feel good that a doctor was like going, oh my God. So, I feel like we're going in the right direction. I really do, to help. And my goal is to help just, as many dogs as possible. That's my passion. So
So does Cornell have a specific place where they're doing more with working dogs, or was it just in general they were like kind of interested in what you were doing just because of all of its many applications?
yes, for the mini applications and the fact that we could actually get some data points from, from them using it and measuring, the oxygen and all the stuff that they're going to do for us, so we can have some data, so we can have some data, what this is on this liters per minute, this is what we're getting, all kinds of things. So it'll be really, really good data for us.
That's
Yeah,
very
I think
cool.
yeah, I love that because even so, like the big thing when we were trying to give patients oxygen, we want we were about their oxygen saturation and how much of like they're actually getting because you and I
Sure.
all breathe at like 20% oxygen, and even like when we put them in an oxygen cage, the max we usually get them to is about 60%, so about 3 times what they should be getting. But masks currently are really not great. Like you might get 30 to 35% oxygen. So I'm hoping, I anticipate that's probably something they're going to want to test is how much oxygen are they getting with these muzzles, which would be awesome because if you can boost that 35 to 45, 50, or even 60 just sitting there, that's massive. Like that'd be such a huge win, to be honest with you, be able to provide
Yeah.
that support, especially for bigger dogs that you can't just throw in a cage. Like we can throw a lot of our, I think people don't realize we can throw little dogs in the cage and let them sit in there and they can calm down for a little bit. But if we can give them higher amounts of oxygen and take away some of that stress, it'd be a huge win. So you have to keep me in touch. Like let me know because I'll say I got a hospital. I'm sure that would love to know more about it. So
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
we also work with a lot of the like police dogs in our area and stuff like that. So I'm sure that that's something that they would be interested in, as soon as you're getting all this information, and truthfully probably just with what you have now, considering it is so compelling because there really is nothing like it.
Right. Well, we've had some folks pick some up for their teams and so forth. So things are it's starting to get around, and we're hoping it's going to get where it needs to go to help give these dogs the best tools we can for when and if they ever need it, which we hope they don't, but a lot of them may.
The other thing too, the other application I would imagine is, we do have these patients sometimes that they're just unhandleable, like for us. You know what I mean? And we have to actually sedate them just to get an exam or do whatever. So there is an application even beyond, I would imagine, working dogs that, are trained to muzzles and things like that.
Sure.
And you have a one entrance where the oxygen goes in, is that right? Like, is that kind of how it's
Yes.
designed?
Yes, it's a port right in the front. You just hook up to the oxygen line and it blows the oxygen right into the dog's mouth and the nose right there. So it's
And so is there, I suppose then, depending on what your oxygen source is, if you needed to kind of, I don't know, if they were going to stay on it for like long periods of time, you probably could amend either like, don't you have to like add some like moisture if they're going to have it for a long time or something like that, right, Robert?
sure.
yeah, to humidify the air. So like, but so that's why I think it's such a cool thing because we have dogs and runs that if they and some that we've had some dogs, it's sad, but they are very aggressive and you have to keep a muzzle on them. But there's not a great solution right now because if they're aggressive but they need oxygen at the same time, they'll keep a muzzle on them that's safe, allows them to move their mouth a little bit, but still get oxygen is a huge win.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's what one of our versions does is actually, clips onto a cage muzzle so he can get oxygen or she while they have a muzzle on. So once again, the safety factor comes in and
Hmm.
things are happening and your hands are free again. So, you can still do other things you need to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's so important, and like for especially in my clinic, because I'm not an emergency vet. Like Robert is an emergency vet, so you guys have, oxygen cages and things like that. We don't. So, you know what I mean? Like in a situation where this is exactly the point that I think you were making, Robert, where you're saying like, there's only so many hands for people. And when we have a patient come in that needs to keep a mask on, but there's everyone, you know what I mean? Everyone has 8 different jobs they need to be doing. We can't have 3 people sitting there with them, but they have to be stabilized. And of course, that patient safety is going to come first. So I feel like this is like another application. I mean, the more we kind of look at what you can do, especially you'd think, general practice, I don't know, but it sounds to me like it's something that really kind of could work in any practice.
Yeah, and that's what we hoped. Like I said, it started in the field, and the veterinarians, and I do have a veterinarian who's been helping for probably about 2 years, and she sent me some pictures of a dog that had a laceration to the scalp, got in a fight, and she was not sure of the dog, so she put the cage muzzle on, and then put our clip on right over top of it, and she sent me pictures. Dog's being, everything's going great. Nobody's holding oxygen. Dog's sedated. He's getting oxygenation, and it worked great. I mean, it's working like it's supposed to.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's even a good point too, because we do sedate a lot of patients that are not intubated, but they are sedated for procedures. And right now, there's no good way to keep like oxygen in front of them. Like you have to like MacGyver the half cup tumbler and
Yep.
tape it down, and then like attach it. Like they're not getting all the oxygen anyway. So you're like, this isn't working as well as we'd like. So this is like a great alternative. Like I said, you let me know when this is ready to go, because
Yeah.
I'm sold on it, because I think it's such a huge advantage, and it frees up hands, and I think it's such a smart idea. And
Yeah.
we even talked about your kind of next steps with hopefully cat muzzles one of these days, which would be
Yes, we
Huge.
were asked about that.
Yeah.
That and horses, we were asked a lot. Those were
oh
those came up quite a bit, and brachycephalic dogs,
I
of
was
course.
going to say, and what about the bulldogs? We need pugs and bulldogs.
I know we're working on those. Believe me, I didn't forget about those. I have one myself, but they
oh
were.
gosh.
Yeah, it was the working breed that started all this, and that's kind of where we kept designs, and now we're trying to catch up, and get things in line for the next round, for the next pups.
Well, and I think the thing that's so nice about what it sounds like you're planning to do with Cornell is once you can have those data points, so where the veterinary world is full of skeptics a little bit, and
Yes, I
people who
found that
take
out.
yeah. It's true. I mean,
Yes, it is.
you have
Yep.
some people that are very, very willing to try something new, right? But I would say there's a very large portion that are just nervous to try something new, and they need some proof out there that it's going to be
Yes.
okay. And
Yes.
so I think the pedigree of Cornell is definitely going to be something that will help you out. So I think that's
I
really
think so
good.
too. I'm really excited about it. I mean, it's just everything seems to be working in a good way. I mean, moving forward, which is where we want to go.
Oh
So,
yeah,
there's bumps in the road, but we're smoothing them out as quick as possible, and moving forward. So we've got some good things coming.
that's awesome.
I think,
It's
yeah.
so
What's
fantastic.
Oh yeah. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges you've had so far with the mask? Like, what's kind of probably the biggest roadblock you've faced, kind of in terms of its development?
Well, I think um, actually getting people to understand what we're doing. I didn't think that would be the hardest, but I find sometimes when I'm describing what we're doing, it seems to be a little confusing until they actually see it. And then they're like, oh, I get it. But that and finding the right people to help design, I know that was a big part to start, a lot of promises, and, they didn't work. So we just kept going until we found the right folks. So, and we did, and learning, that's what we've been doing, is learning. So, and it's been a good road, bumps and all. It's been a great road, because I have an end goal, and that is to save dogs. Pets, working dogs, any of them. It's just a passion, and that's what I'm gonna do.
I feel like when that starts out as the reason why you start something, then eventually you're going to get there, because to me that is a very noble goal, and I think it's one we can all get behind and that we all share. And I feel like you have a real passion for what you're doing, even just I
Yes.
think the very first time we met you, I remember like Robert and I left and we were like, he's great. Like we were like, we like our neighbor. He's so good,
Thanks.
you know.
And I
Yes.
absolutely agree. You can see your passion. I just want to second what Sam had said. Like I saw the dog. We had a dog that walked around afterwards, and just I saw your just attention to them afterwards, and you can just tell that you have just a unique connection with dogs and how much you care about them. So I think that I wholeheartedly
I
second
do.
what Sam said.
Well, I appreciate that because I really do. And I feel that I do as well. I don't know. There's something about him. I tell everybody jokingly, but it's kind of funny. I was a paramedic for a long time, but over the last few years, my life went to the dogs. So,
That's awesome.
Well, and now you're really in trouble because now you came into the veterinary world, and so
I like the veterinary world. It seems to be a good place. So,
We're not so bad.
yeah,
no, not at
exactly.
all.
Well, I have to say, like, I think it's awesome that you've come to share this with us. And honestly, like, we just love talking to you. And I think that if you ever have any updates for us as things go, we would love to kind of continue our dialogue and just share anything else that you ever have going on, because it's something that I think is really wonderful what you're doing. I know Robert agrees, and we're behind you 100%. We think it's really cool what
Wow.
you're trying to do.
Well, it makes me feel really good that you guys feel that way. I mean, it's telling me that I am going in the right path that I chose, and I'm not going to stop. I mean, there's been, like I said, there's days that I just want to quit, but I look at my dogs and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to quit.
Right.
So, it's been a fun journey, and I hope it continues.
Yeah. Can you share your website so that people can go and take a look at what you're doing? And that way, if they ever have questions, they can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys go to www.barrett, and that's BARRETT, and capital O2 or small o, it doesn't matter, muzzles.com, you'll see the website. It's got a history of me there. Phone number, if you got any questions, please feel free to call. And there's a spot to sign up and get it for the newsletters and so forth, if you're interested.
We
Oh,
love
yeah.
that. People can
Yeah.
always also email us any questions that they may have. So that is Pawsit. Oh my goodness. I am losing my mind.
I got you. It's a podcast at mybalto.com.
I have a little
And
bit of a head cold right now in case anyone listening can't tell.
yeah, I can step in for once. I got this one.
Robert's got it. Robert's got it.
And also, real quick, Thomas, are those t-shirts? So Thomas was kind enough to give me a t-shirt for the conference. Very nice t-shirts. Got Barrett O2 muzzles across it. Are those available for people
Ooh,
to
I love
purchase?
it.
Because he's wearing it right now. So you get a chance to check out the podcast.
It was actually a new design. I just got a handful done just to see if I liked it, and I really do like it. So we will be getting more, and once we do, I'll send out or let you know, and we'll have them on the website for sale. We do have we're getting some sweatshirts as well since the winter's coming, but it was
Ooh.
just something I was checking out that turned out to be really cool. So we will have some soon. I can assure you that.
Well, they're very comfortable, so I highly
I
recommend
know,
them
I
if
was
anybody
gonna say
wants
I'm
one.
jealous when the sweatshirts come in, keep in mind.
We'll put in the budget, Sam.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh man, I just love what you're doing, and I think it's so amazing. And having worked honestly with working dogs, not to the same extent as you, of course, but the last two practices I've been at have been that way, and we've worked with police dogs and bomb sniffing dogs and stuff like that. And I really they are wonderful, and you're wonderful, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing
Oh,
for the
well, I thank
dogs.
you. Yes, and I mean, this has been great. I mean, it's so positive. I don't know. I'm happy inside, which is really good. I mean, I'm doing something that I love to do. I
Yeah.
love my
Oh.
job.
Well, we are just thankful that we're getting to share what you're doing with our listeners. And like I said, always email us if you guys have any questions for Thomas or just questions about your dogs in general. This has been the Pawsit Podcast. Thanks again for everyone listening to us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.